Okay,
Okay.
very
Well,
good.
welcome to our second episode of Musings at the Edge of Consciousness, the podcast series that Eric and I have kind of put together. We're trying to see how this whole journey will map out. So we are really excited. And if you want to know more about, the context of this series and, what kind of got us into it, a little bit into Eric and such, please do check out the first episode. It's there in the series, and then we'll be continuing this and delving more into a lot of aspects around the human condition and stories around how our existence is over here in this reality, this little planet, all of that, lots more. So Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm ready for this. Uh, I would like to ask you, how do you feel about the first episode? How do you feel it went?
Oh, I think it went really well. Like it properly set the context of what we are trying to do over here. Don't you agree?
I do. I do. I think we needed to get through those necessary introductions
Yeah,
just to introduce ourselves
yeah,
to the audience. There's a bit of background there, and I'm sure a lot more background will come up as we progress into this.
yeah,
I also feel good about it. It feels like we got something going
yeah,
that can continue.
yeah,
And I feel that if this thing is really going to work, then at some point we are just going to settle a bit deeper into ourselves, and a space is going to expand around us. And why not now?
yeah, yeah.
This is
And
where it begins.
it's a space that has a lot of potential, right? I mean, in a way, we are trying to see that part of our reality or this universe where things really haven't collapsed yet. It's still in that idea stage, still in that, the the vibrations of our mind, as we call it. I mean, we're trying to kind of stay at that level and see what's going on and try to make some sense of it. I mean, isn't that what we are trying to do?
Sure, sure. And I feel like this is very vital right now for the time that we're in, because it really does seem to people simple and sophisticated that the world's kind of falling apart. And I would challenge that. And I feel like we will be challenging this by by exploring different ways of looking at reality, different
Yeah,
approaches to consciousness, and how that informs our outlook, our worldview outlook. And so I'm excited about exploring this and then bringing it more down to the earthly level of, well, how does, say, more metaphysical knowledge
mm,
level of understanding inform the decisions that we have to make day to day? Because if it doesn't, it's useless as far as
yeah,
I'm concerned. I want to keep this practical. I
true.
don't care how far out we get. And my approach personally has always been to find the biggest rabbit hole I can and then just to throw myself down it.
Yeah,
But I am a practical man. I'm always looking for practical, simple solutions to my problems, to the problems of humanity, to the situations that we all face, you know. So, I mean, there are going to be aspects where we go as far out as we possibly can. But I mean, certainly we're going to be talking all kinds of things,
yeah,
society, certain political issues. I don't think we're going to be dwelling there because it's not important. It won't be important because we'll be framing things in a certain way where the relative unimportance
mm,
of political things are seen to be what they actually are.
yeah.
Because
I like that.
I think you agree. You're
Yeah,
smiling. You're
yeah,
smiling this grin like, yeah, it's true. We are being told that we have to be afraid. For example.
Yeah.
we're being told that one's dangerous. All
Yeah.
of these things. And consciousness means suggests awareness, and awareness suggests a certain kind of self-responsibility, right? To
Yeah.
make a decision. Am I sure I can really follow that? Because
In a
they don't
way,
seem like a threat. That person
i-
doesn't really seem like a threat.
in a way, right? I mean, that fear is in a way got to do with uncertainty, right? I mean, if you really look at the world around us and the reality around us, things are quite uncertain, but our mind kind of collapses them into these opinions and biases and judgments that we are not really sure of, and but then we put it out there, and that's what becomes the world in a way, and
Ex-
everything that we see around us.
Exactly. That's what becomes our world.
Yeah.
And so, well, yeah, that's exactly the point. That it really does feel like this construct model of reality, which has gained a lot of traction in the last couple of years,
Yeah.
is it feels like there's something to it because we are all the framers of our reality, but we know we're being programmed, you know? I mean, for example, when when a situation gets difficult in a country, the government's job is to manage order. And sometimes, or especially if they have no other, or they feel they have no other course of action, they'll just ramp up the fear, you know, and they'll establish order that way.
More fear,
So,
more control. So yeah.
right, yeah. And then in social media, there are people who are making a lot of money and becoming very famous, just
Yeah.
scaring people to death.
Yeah.
And they can be popular, they can seem positive, but we can always ask ourselves, what's the real motivation here? So, anyways, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
I know.
Yes, let's go back to
I,
yeah, we
I want
just talked.
I want to pull
Yes,
on one string though, Eric. You said that you're a practical man, and
yes,
whatever we talk about, however far we go into our explorations, we need that grounding element or something that keeps us tied to a particular structure to our conversations. And last time we introduced the book, the pamphlet, and if you
right.
remember, we are
Oh yeah.
thinking of kind of using that as a structure to our conversations, and see if we can delve in. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring in that as well from our last conversation.
Yes, yes. I feel like we need a part two to the introductions,
Yeah.
because I didn't say something about this pamphlet,
Hmm.
the pamphlet,
The
as I'm
pamphlet.
calling it. And at some point we might get to why I called it the pamphlet.
Yes.
You'll never guess why. It's the silliest, stupid reason, but
It always is in life.
that's my silly side coming through. So,
Right.
anyways, what I want to say about this is what I didn't say last time is that if if you're joining in to this podcast, you're starting to follow. Please do not feel like you need to read this in order to follow this podcast.
Very important.
This is something that came to me for my own purposes, and I decided to share the more general aspects that I thought might help other people. We're taking ideas from it, but this is not a course where you have to read this to follow along. Not at all. I would suggest that you only download it if you feel drawn towards experiencing it. You know, it's an experience that's maybe not for you. So, you know, no harm in trying and just not getting into it. You can leave it for another time or just delete it, forget about it. Maybe it will come back in some future date, maybe not. But please don't feel like this is some sort of a study course where we're talking things that you don't know because you didn't read the book. No,
Yeah.
it's not like that. It's really not like that. And the only reason I agreed to do this is because we have allowed ourselves a completely open platform to be
Yeah.
free, to be natural, to be ourselves. And one of the great pulls here for me, Vishak, is that I want to learn how to be myself and natural live in front of a camera, you
Mm.
know? I'd never done this before last time. I was rather surprised to see that I could talk without becoming self-conscious, about my talking. So that's a disclaimer, you know. And the other thing, in this introduction, I'll just introduce myself again. My name's Eric, coming to you this week from an undisclosed location within one of my artworks. So I will be featuring different artworks each time. Some of what I do look like this because I did them on a computer. I can no longer do this kind of work because I don't have a Chromebook anymore. I don't have the access to that software, but this is what it looks like. And yeah, it's just, I think it was Avery was the name of the software on Chromebook, made by a single designer, free, awesome software. Right. So
For the
that's
interest of our viewers, just to give a little insight into Eric, for the many, many years that I've known him, I've seen him dabble with music, with literature, with art, with photography, with movies. God, I can't even tell you how many movies I have been introduced to because of Eric. And so he's a man of various interests and talents, I would say. So it's not surprising, Eric. I mean, the kind of photos, I'm pretty sure through these series we would be exploring a lot of different media and different various things through which we probably sense this world, make some make some meaning out of it. So I guess all of this, all these different things that you're bringing in, your own creations as well as other people's creations that we would be referring to, I think it all kind of builds that tapestry of this reality that we so call ourselves, our reality.
yes,
But yeah,
good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I feel like um, I mentioned politics just a moment ago, but I'm not a very political person. And when we talk politics, I feel like it's always going to be framing from a much wider
perspective
reference
lens.
point. Yeah, a more zoomed out perspective where, ooh, my fingers are disappearing into the background. To in order to get a bit of you know, a reality check,
Yeah,
a perspective check, so that we don't um, so we might have a tool in our toolbox to not get caught away with the political narratives that are trying to keep us in fear and stuck. But my
yeah.
thing is the arts. I'm passionate about, yes, philosophy and psychology and sociology. We'll talk all of these things, but my my deepest passion is for consciousness, and that's why we're here. But I mean, my mode is really arts. I hang out with the artsy crowd. I'm always friends with the musicians around and the artists, and I'm an artist. Mainly a photographer, but
Yeah.
I really more feel like an artist with a camera than a photographer. I'm not such a photo geek. I'm more on the intuitive side. But oh,
There,
yes,
there's
absolutely.
something about there's something
Let's
about
talk art.
framing the world, huh? There's something about framing the world through that lens. It just gives you a different kind of perspective than how you're looking at it with your eyes. I guess, I mean, it's a photographer's thing, correct?
Sure, sure. I mean, I remember I went to Japan in 1999 with a camera, with my film camera,
Yeah,
and I developed some rolls and made some prints while I was still in Japan, and I showed the pictures to some Japanese people, and they were just kind of baffled and confused and amused at this outsider's perspective on Japan because I was saying, yeah, with film, every shot does count. You
yeah,
get 36 shots in a frame or whatnot, and want to make it count. But I was just fascinated with Japan. Every inch of that country is interesting to me.
mm,
And so I was taking pictures of some of them were very mundane,
mm,
just scenes. But
mm,
just like you're saying, I framed it in a way that they would have never thought to, and they found this fascinating. And I do feel that that's the draw to photography.
yeah,
It does allow. in a sense, allow other people to see through your own perspective, you know?
mm,
I mean,
mm.
very few of us are master painters or whatever, printmakers or drawers. I'm certainly not. I wasn't very good at it. But I was okay at drawing for a while, but the camera is
Photography.
supposed to, the idea of the camera was that it was, this is a whole nother topic, but it was
I know.
a scientific tool designed to capture objective reality, right?
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was no thought of art, and there was no debate really until Alfred Stieglitz came along in the 1870s and 80s and decided, well, and his quote is, when someone asked him, is photography art? He said, well, when it's elevated to the level of art, then it's art. And that's a great
I
answer,
agree.
isn't it? Because that means anything can be art.
Yeah.
If it can be elevated to the level of art. And so that debate shifted, and then it became a more it became less of a scientific medium, you know.
Mm, mm,
It became a mode of expression. And ever since then, and that is around the time of expressionism
mm,
and impressionism in art,
mm,
you know, and the whole modern movement of art, which became about, I have my subjective reality, you have yours.
mm,
Mine looks kind of like this. Can you
mm.
dig it? You know? Can you
Yeah,
can you vibe? Can you dig this? Can you see what I'm seeing? And so that's my fascination with photography is it is about a viewpoint, you
it
know,
is. It
and
is.
it's infinitely rich and complex in that way. I have to say about this though, while we're on the topic,
Mm,
I feel like social media is killing this, the
mm.
influence of social media, because so much of the artist photographer is disappearing off of the platforms.
I was just thinking about that when you mentioned the part about a film having 36 shots, and that kind of limits you, right? There is a certain
Yes.
constraint over there. And I'm wondering about nowadays when you have these mobile phones and your DSLRs, and you can just go click, 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 and just fill in entire memory cards of shots, right? How does that impact your framing ability, where uh, you know that you have only 36 shots with you, so every shot is valuable. How does that impact, how is that different?
Right. Right. Well, let's talk about portraiture. Portraiture is I've done a little of it, just a
Mm,
little bit.
mm,
I think like 3 or 4 rolls worth of portraits, and it was all in the film days.
mm,
And then I did do a little bit just for friends with a digital camera. But think about this. Um, you your job is to go take pictures of someone.
mm,
Okay. What are you trying to do? You're trying to capture an essence,
mm.
or you're trying to make them look very beautiful, or
Right.
whatever you're trying to do. But you are this is your task, and this
Mm,
is what you have to do. So with a digital camera, yeah, there are cameras that go so fast that you're basically shooting video, and then later you just go through and select the best
yeah,
image. And
yeah.
probably already, I don't know because I don't really care. There's probably already some AI software that's designed
Yes,
to go through all of these and to select
yes,
like 4 or 5 for you. Okay, of course there is. So there's that. So there's that. And that seems good. It seems convenient. It seems like now, like, yeah, like I'm a busy guy. I got 3 things to do today and I'm got to get through this. So there's that. But now imagine the model. What's the model supposed to do? You
mm,
know, they're kind of performing in front of a camera,
mm,
almost in the sense that we are. I do
right.
still feel a little bit like I'm performing in front of this camera, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
I have to kind of keep engaged with the audience, which I can't see, and I don't even know their names. I don't know who they are. You
right.
know, I probably shouldn't like reach down and, all of that stuff. But that's another matter, and that's an interesting point. One of the things that changed modern cinema is Marlon Brando. There's a famous scene, like in the early 50s, he fidgets in his chair and he looks down. And this is in the scene when he's talking to a pretty girl in a
Uh,
in a restaurant. This was a revolution in film. This is not what you do, but it
I
changed
can
things. Suddenly
change the
everything
whole.
opened
It
up.
became natural. Till then, it was like, no.
Natural,
Mm,
truly natural, not just for the camera, natural,
mm,
you know?
mm,
Right. So anyways, back to like we need to consider the model.
mm,
If we're really going to catch something good,
mm,
there's a little magic in that moment that we're
mm,
trying to capture.
mm,
And that is something that you build up to before you click the next shutter on
mm.
your film camera. So there's an expectation and there's a building in time.
Building. There's a tension
There's
being
building,
built.
there's a tension. And of course, you don't want to capture the tension, but that tension is running in the background. And
Yeah.
it's a medium. It's a medium that is used, it's a dynamic in the process that's used creatively to capture a spark. And that's why so many great images exist in old portraiture going back forever. I mean, at one point there was a time constraint because the lenses were too dim and
Mm.
you had to stand still for 30 seconds or a minute
Or it's
and
getting blurry.
try not to move. And so the people look really waxen. It's
Yeah.
almost all white people, so their faces look very, very like you look like a ghost. And maybe there's a little bit of movement, and that's been captured. So, when we got over that in, I guess, the 19 teens or whenever, things became snappy and it really was a moment. It was a
Mm.
30th of a second or a 60th of a second. It all became about that moment.
Yeah.
And you prepare and you relax at the same time. So there's tension, but there's also something natural comes through in that heightened state of tension,
Oof.
right? And that's
Yeah.
magic. And
That's
how do you do
magic.
that with digital? There's no way to really.
I know. I was just like when you were talking about it, right? I was feeling like imagine holding an actual a film camera and you have your finger on the shutter, all right? And you're framing and you're framing and you can feel the tension. You don't know when you will click, but you will click. And that one click is enough to kind of capture the entire tension and everything in that one snap. But if you're
Right.
in a digital camera or something, you're just gonna click, 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 click. There is no tension being built up. You're just it's there's no magic there. It just doesn't feel like there's magic there.
Yeah, it's different. Anyway, it's different. It's
Yeah,
different. And
yeah.
um and
So
there are always
Eric,
trade-offs.
I was thinking, sorry, I was thinking about the same parallel to life itself, right? Where you jump into those conclusions and that opinions that we were talking about earlier, and we don't frame the moment. We don't sit with the tension and the uncertainty till the answer should just fall into place into our minds. I mean, that's how I feel it. That's how the aha
Mm.
moment comes in, right? But till that point, we are just clicking the camera, just kind of framing and just throwing our opinions out there. I mean, I'm just getting a parallel like that with
Right,
life.
right. Well, no, I'm also now that makes me think again about social media,
Mm,
where there are people who I've seen them out and about. There are
yeah,
people who are documenting their fabulous lifestyles, right?
yeah,
As they meander around the globe and whatnot. I saw some of these people in
yeah.
Mexico, and I'm sure they're everywhere at this point. But
Everywhere. Yes.
but the thing is, like there's a funny paradox there where they're trying to create something spontaneous and lively, but it's really hard to do that when you've got a camera in front of you and you're sort of pretending to be in the real
Perform. You
world
feel just
in
like you
in a
mentioned.
natural way. Yeah, it
Yeah,
it feels performative. It feels performative, and I don't want somebody coming up to me with a camera and
yeah,
recording something. I don't
yeah,
want that.
yeah,
That doesn't feel comfortable because I don't know them and I don't know their intentions and I don't know how they're going to use the footage.
yeah.
And so suddenly I feel like a control freak. Like, yeah, I
Mm.
don't. what are you up to? And so the other side of that is I've seen some very, very beautiful videos made that are super spontaneous.
Mm,
And going back to models, this is interesting. This ties right back into what we were talking about. And by the way, I really don't enjoy shooting people too much. And
mm,
I mean, I would, and I
mm,
might in the future. I don't know,
mm,
I might, but it never felt terribly comfortable to me.
mm,
Um, Personally,
mm,
it's not my thing exactly, but I might explore that in the future. So, this is what I want to say. Because I'm interested in all aspects of photography, I discovered a photographer, and then an hour later on YouTube, I was offered the choice of a video where he's talking with a model about how to go up to strangers on the street and ask them if they can take their picture, and
mm,
especially how not to.
mm,
And the photographer was a man,
mm.
middle-aged man. The model was a woman in her
Okay.
mid-20s, much
Okay.
more clued in with the social media experience and
Right.
lifestyle, so to speak. And it was a very interesting and instructive little thing that I felt like was really pretty common knowledge or common sense. But then I looked at the comments and people were like, wow, I never really thought about it like that.
Mm,
So it seems to me like we're losing our ability to give people their right to be alone
true.
on the
True.
street and in the
Mm,
world.
mm,
And we're almost celebrating
mm,
ourselves for doing this
mm.
by documenting it with cameras and posting it online. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not really okay with that, a lot of
Mm,
that. And then there was the male female dynamic, a lot of it is men asking women if they can be photographed. And
can be construed in a wrong way. Yeah.
Yes, and the whole point, the reason why they decided to make that video was there was just this was just 2 weeks ago, but they were inspired by a true case of a guy going around being extremely aggressive, and making women feel very uncomfortable.
Mm, mm,
And there's a famous Japanese photographer, street photographer right now, who goes around and he puts a camera right up in people's faces and clicks. And it's very high art actually, but it's
mm,
really I would say that's my opinion. I
mm,
like him, but
mm,
it's also borderline abuse of people's
mm,
personal rights,
mm,
especially in the Far East. I've lived in the Far East, and one thing that I really love about being in China and Japan, that's what I'm calling the Far East here,
mm,
is that when you're on the street, you have the right to be left alone.
mm.
That
I
is a
mean, it
human
should
right.
be obvious, right?
It should be. I mean, I kind of enjoy India for the opposite reason. I like the funk factor of the street of India, where just about anybody feels like they can come up to me. And I have to say, being a white guy in China, I was constantly bothered by people who wanted to practice their English, giving me the Asian
Can you
interview,
give me a
20
quick lesson?
questions. So, so
But
th
this this is
So I
interesting.
learned
Yeah,
I,
sorry, sorry,
I
go ahead.
learned I learned a phrase in Chinese. I mean, I learned Chinese, but I learned a phrase pretty early on. I learned how to say, "I'm from Poland. I don't speak any English." 我是波兰来自，我不会说英语。
And did they leave you alone after that?
Course, they had no choice. They had no choice to because they think I can't speak any English. Like, oh, did you presume that I can speak English? Well, sorry to disappoint
Sorry.
you folks, but no, I don't speak any English.
You're lucky nobody came up to you
Anyways,
asking for Polish lessons.
yeah,
In that case. But this is interesting because you mentioned about the subjective nature about these, the way people take towards certain requests. Like if you want to be photographed, some people are totally cool with it. Some people are like completely no chance. This is like my personal freedom, and in a way, that's true. Like we have to respect everybody's freedom, right? But subjectively, there's so much of difference, and this is one thing when we bring it back to consciousness, right? It kind of boggles my head because there are so many different perspectives. Every person has a different perspective. It's completely chaos if you were to look at it. Where is the
Mhm.
unity? What's keeping all of us, all these perspectives together? Or, that single common thread through all these subjective opinions and the things. That's
Right.
consciousness, or I don't know, something else. And that's it always gets me to that point, whatever
Mhm.
topic that comes in.
Well, I think it's consciousness, and
Mm,
then on a lower level, human consciousness.
mm,
Because, I mean, we didn't even know that dogs communicated with each other until
mm,
science discovered this about 20 years ago. So there's the cat realm,
mm.
where all the cats are sort of on the same level of
Frequency.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Right, right. And there are people who can communicate with animals. There's no
Mm,
doubt about this. There are skeptics, of course, but it can be proven. And if someone wants proof out there, look up the video called um, Diablo becomes, what is that? Um,
let me see if I can find that out.
yeah, it's on YouTube.
Diablo?
Diablo becomes, see what the search says.
Diablo becomes cautious? Is it an anime?
No, no, it's a video about an animal communicator who knows how to communicate with animals.
Okay, let me see. I mean, I'll
Okay,
probably try
I'll get back
searching
to
for
you.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that. But this is a woman who was called into a zoo to communicate with an animal that was having a real problem with its new
Okay.
environment, and how it shows how this works. And anyway, I thought of this because I thought of the woman. She's from South Africa, and she's quite famous as an animal communicator. And what she has said, the reason why I brought all this up, this little detour, is that she said that if we want to communicate with animals, what helps is to try to imagine what that animal is experiencing
Mm,
in the moment that you're looking at them, that you're witnessing them, and their own problems that they need to solve, right? Maybe they're a cat that's just a stray cat on the street that you're
mm,
encountering. Their problem is survival, safety. They need to find food. You know, humans are their problem, potentially.
right.
A human could kill them,
Yeah.
who knows what. So this is the mindset that we need to get into if we're going to be able to build a bridge of consciousness between us and
Mm,
them.
mm.
And that feels so instructive in making a first step and at least kind of trying to understand. But,
Sort of
I feel,
describing empathy over there, right, Eric?
oh, absolutely. This is
Yeah.
this is empathy. And I mean, come on, if you don't have empathy, I mean, what
First step.
it's the psychopath who might be aware of empathy intellectually and how to use it, but doesn't really experience it. They might that apparently most of them are masters at understanding human behavior,
Mm,
but they can't really partake in it. You
mm,
know, they're on the
mm.
outside
They're on the outside.
trying to break a barrier to get in, but they
Mm,
can't. They can't. And so I feel that we are all connected through just this human thing that goes unsaid and is basically telepathic. To
mm,
me, it's a miracle that we can understand each other at all
mm, mm,
through the medium of language,
mm.
you know. And let's
It's
not forget, and
mind-boggling.
let's, we when we introduced ourselves, we didn't go into the history of how we met and when. So
Mm,
why don't we do that? Why don't we talk about some dates? Because it's understood at this point that we know each other pretty well, but when did
yeah.
we meet?
Uh, it's very hazy for me, Eric. It almost feels like, a lifetime or so. But if I were to put it into actual time, 2007?
Okay, well, no, no,
2007?
no. I can help you out here. I
Yeah.
I know the dates specifically because I know
Okay.
the date that I moved to your city.
Okay.
To go to the medical clinic. It was January 1st, 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, so it,
2010.
it was it was the first date of that decade, right?
Mm,
I'd already been in Kerala for some months,
mm,
like for 5 months.
mm,
I'd begun a part of the treatment, but then I was going to get into the main body of the treatment. So, anyways, I I know for a fact that we met around 2011,
mm,
right
mm.
before the 12/12/2012 thing was happening, right? You
Yeah,
remember that craze?
I do, but there is this memory that I have of you staying. Remember, there was a Gandhi study circle, and
Yes.
I think you had a room over there, and you were staying there. And did we briefly meet up during that time? And then we kind of
Yes.
hit it shortly. And then was that during 2010 or was that before
That was 2011, I believe,
2011?
or
Okay,
the end of 2010. But anyway, that's the approximate time
that's
in
the
which we
approximate
met.
time.
Yes.
Okay.
And at that
Okay.
time, I remember you weren't working
Nope.
and you were thinking about cutting up
Free as
all
a
of your
kite.
ID cards
Yep.
and just
And my
wandering,
passport and
wandering
everything.
away. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, because there was a program on, wasn't there, of the government trying to train people into the idea that everybody needs an ID and
Yeah.
it's good for you. It's good for you.
It's
And
got way worse since then.
well, I
But
mean, even
anyways.
well, I mean, even sadhus used to carry IDs
Yeah.
decades and decades ago, you know.
Yeah. Now they're asking all those people to prove that their parents were really, part of this country. So if you can prove that, then you get to stay over here.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Something
That's
like
pure
that.
politics right there.
Yeah.
Because I know the reason behind it. They want to cut some certain religious minorities, let's say, out of the picture if they can, and
Yes.
just jettison them out of the. Yes, these things are happening around the
Yeah.
world. There's this right-wing nationalistic craze is
Fervor going out. Yeah.
spreading like wildfire. But anyway, so yeah, we met then, and we knew each other for some months, and we did have some real time for a while, and then
Yeah.
you drifted into this job and then you went to Bangalore
Hmm.
and you would come and go. So would get to see you here and there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I left
Hmm.
India,
Hmm.
2014.
Hmm.
Oh, I left the south. I went up north to
Nepal,
Rishikesh.
Rishikesh.
I
Yeah.
went to Rishikesh. Yeah, I did the magazine that you helped
Yeah.
us to
Yes.
publish.
That was
Yes,
2014.
to
Yeah.
print. Yeah, that was 2014. Right. Right, right. And then we've only seen each other a couple times since then.
Since
Isn't
then.
that right? Or only once.
Probably once, I think once when you had come over to Hyderabad and, you're like checking out over here, you were staying over here for some time. Yeah.
Yeah, I stayed
And
with you
then
for
I
about
think
a
that was
week.
just before COVID hit, the pandemic hit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So that would be 2019, right? That was the end of 2019. Right.
2020. Yeah.
That's 2020. Right.
Yeah.
That's when I went into the ashram where I stayed for most of COVID. But anyways, so this is some of our background for those of you who are wondering. So we haven't spent a lot of time like together. But what I noticed right away was that we had a connection and we could
Mm.
understand each other, and especially about the higher aspects of philosophy. And one of the things, it looks like the time is really going on, so we might be wrapping this up. But
Yeah.
one of the things one of the things I'm looking forward to exploring with you in this is Hinduism,
Mm.
because you grew up in that tradition, and I've been studying it for about 30 years, you
Right.
know, and I almost feel like the more I know, the less I'm really sure of when it comes to Hinduism, because it's just such an interesting topic. It
It's
feels like,
very nuanced and very misunderstood, misinterpreted, like a lot of other religions as well. But it's very rich because, yeah, it's been around for like thousands of years. I mean, at least from what I know, at least about around 3,000 to 4,000 years, it's been evolving and such. So, yeah, there's a large corpus of stuff that we can dig into over
oh
there.
yes, yes. And I know what I know, I've read certain books. I spent more than a decade in India, most of that in Hindu India. I was also in some Tibetan places. But funny enough, when I lived in the Tibetan monastery, when I was allowed to talk, I really wasn't talking for part of it. But one of my favorite things to do was to talk to my old friend Toll, who
Mm.
was he was a young Tibetan guy who knew so much about Hinduism, and he used to just
Oh,
talk for hours to me about Hinduism. He loved it, and he loved India, and he'd been around. And man, he had some really interesting stories too. I might tell a couple of these stories, like really kind of unbelievable stories. But we will get to many unbelievable stories, I'm sure, and that's going to
just
be
scratching the surface, just about
yes.
scratching the surface. That's it.
Yes, yes, but I feel like there's a rich mine of ideas and experiences just within Hinduism itself.
Yeah.
And I personally, I know you don't know everything, but you have your perspective, and you have an insider's perspective that anybody else in the world is really not going to get, you
Yeah.
know, unless, I mean, we can devote ourselves to understanding China, for example. Doesn't mean we ever will. It's
Yeah.
another reality in a certain sense.
Yeah.
And but what interests me about Hinduism and how it relates to this is that it's cosmically oriented.
Mm.
It's cosmically oriented. And I believe it's true what someone said once is that the only real religions in a certain sense, the only let me rephrase that. The only how to say the only eternal religions are the Indian ones of Jainism,
Mm.
Hinduism, and Buddhism,
Mm.
because they deal with eternity.
Mm.
They're not bound in time in the
Mm.
events of some mythological event or
Mm.
other,
Mm.
right? It's not structure, it's not structured in that way. It's always open. It's
I
always
can,
looking for another opening to find a broader expanse.
if you really dig deep into these religions, especially Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, um, it's pure consciousness. What they are referring to and what they are going down deep down into is consciousness. And then they're just kind of peeling out the layers like an onion and, kind of trying
Yeah.
to explore it. It's just a lot to go in over there, Eric, and I'm glad you're bringing this up because these topics are really close to my heart, especially how I've been like kind of reading up on things, Hinduism, non-Hinduism, trying to get a perspective into Hinduism from other religions, how they are, practicing it. Uh, Proto-Hinduism, where there's a lot of things around Vedic sciences and religions that were there that
Yes, yes.
kind of became what Hinduism is now. So I think yeah, there's a lot that we have to dwell into. I know that we are right at the end of the hour right now, and we were like kind of seeing if this is probably a really good place to kind of end the conversation because
Sure.
I know that if we get into it, there is a lot more digging to do, and that's gonna happen in the next many episodes to come in.
Yes, indeed. Yes. I will just say that yeah, you hit the bullseye. Consciousness is the thing. That's what these religions are about, and that's why I've been studying them for 30 years. And I have to say, like, it can look impenetrable. Well, the old books, I was reading about it in the 90s, and I was reading books that were written in the 30s and 40s. The most famous scholar of Hinduism was Jain.
Mm.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, no,
I
who's that?
can't I can't think of his name. I'll look it up. And
Okay.
oh, before we go, I have a correction. I said something wrong last time that I would like to correct because
Uh-huh.
I don't like to let something like that go. But yeah, it's consciousness, and I'm really looking forward to exploring this topic of how has India come to terms with consciousness and framed it in a certain way um, that might instruct our modern minds in new ways of approaching, old problems and new problems, right? So last time I'm pretty sure I misquoted George Lucas. We were talking about words and
Uh-huh.
how words can create a sort of a construct of our own reality.
Yeah.
And anyways, the quote, I'm going to read it so that I
Mhm.
don't misquote Mr. Lucas again. I'm going to read it off of my screen. Um, George Lucas said, always remember your focus determines your reality. So I love that. I know that words make up all of this, this matrix of words that we're in.
Yeah.
um, it, they carry vibrations and they lead us in certain channels that can't be discounted. But I kind of took a step away thinking that George Lucas spoke about that. Anyways, that's the disclaimer for
Beautiful
the
quote.
day. Um, this feels this one feels more fun than the first. The first one
Yeah.
was the necessary stuff we had to go through. We had a bit of a checklist,
Yeah.
but I'm really enjoying just how free this is. It
Mm.
feels like we'll keep each other in check. If we start to drift a little bit too far, we can just go, hey, you
Keep
know,
pulling back.
you know, because and I want to say to you, Vishak, I want to say directly to your heart. In this series, I would really appreciate it if you don't hold back. Feel free to challenge me.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Always feel like we can push further and
Mm.
deeper.
Mm.
And this one, it still feels like surface. I want to
Mm.
be getting lower and deeper into this. I want to get into more
That's
resonant
where it
spaces.
is. That's where it is.
Yeah.
And that's where the magic also will start coming in, Eric, because I wanna understand. First, I wanna understand, see how it is, and then kind of challenge, reflect, and do all of that. So the first few episodes I know are gonna be, we're gonna keep scratching the surface till we reach a certain level of depth, right? And that's when I think the magic is really gonna explode, implode. I don't know what it's
Yes.
gonna be the
Yes.
exact
Yes.
word.
Yes. We're still kind of high energy. We're riding on the excitement of something new.
Yeah.
This is an experiment in broadcasting, folks, and we're making this up as we go along. We don't know
Yeah.
what we're doing. We decided just before going live that we're going to let people into the process. So the first few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, will just be the basic what's going on with our
Setting the
podcast.
context. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
Setting the context and kind of filling in
Right.
some gaps before we actually dig deeper. Yeah.
Right, right. We're not going to pretend like we're professionals. We're going to allow people into the process to show,
Yes.
no, we're not. And um, we, I don't want. I'm happy for this to be as transparent as it can be. Leave in mistakes, minimal editing. Let's just
Yeah.
roll with it
Let's just roll with it.
and see
Yeah.
where it goes. I don't
Yeah.
feel there's anything that needs to be edited right now.
Yeah.
Editing is going to be misquoted
Censuring.
somebody, misquoted someone, might get sued, brought up some political thing that could get us, that won't happen very often.
Yeah.
Probably won't
Yeah.
even happen, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, all respect to everyone that I mentioned. I'm not going to put anybody down. This is a positive platform.
Yeah.
This is about building
And learning.
something and learning, right? And learning from our mistakes as we go.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for this opportunity, Vishak. This is
Thank
wonderful.
you, Eric.
And I'm sure we'll talk in a minute when
Definitely.
the red record button goes off.
Yes. All
Okay.
right. Catch you
Peace,
guys.
everyone. Peace
Stay
out.
safe. Take care. Bye.